like, as a profession? And then how did you move into what you're doing now, the speaking? I guess doing the clowning got you really comfortable in front of groups and but how did you go from your teaching into what you're doing now?
So I was not the best student growing up in high school. I just really did not apply myself. And I felt that, when my dad was threatening to send me, and he did, to military school, I wanted to go to Interlochen Center for the Arts in Northern Michigan, like
Mm,
theater.
mm-hmm,
And I think I really would have flourished. And
mm-hmm,
um, so education was furthest to my mind, but I felt like, well, I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to do radio. So I dematriculated twice out of college when I first started. I was overweight, dealing with being gay, and
were you, sorry, can I ask about, were you out to your parents at that time?
absolutely.
Oh.
Probably within a year, I was like 30 or 31.
Mm-hmm,
They
mm-hmm.
were not too invested in me, but that's a very interesting story.
Oh, can I just say I'm so sorry. Like, you've said a few things about your growing up years, and if you want to talk about that after,
Sure, you can ask me
yeah.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So, yeah,
um
go ahead.
I didn't I always felt that things would get better. And I love people. And my mom's friends would say, Marge, you'll never have to worry about they call me Greggy. You don't ever have to worry about Greggy. He'll be fine. And I had a love for people. Where that came from, I don't know, was because of my parents not being very loving,
Mm,
or what, but I saw the love that I got when I performed, and also just in general with friends.
mm,
And I think I basically, this led to me going to teaching. I never wanted another person to feel, if you felt different or left ignored,
mhm,
that you didn't matter. And I wanted to make sure that people felt like they were mattered. And so
mm,
I went into radio, did that for a year, and I missed working with students and people. That was my jam. And I thought I need to apply myself. So I went back to school, got my degree later on in life. I graduated, I was 30 or 31 years old, so a little bit later than most. But
mhm,
I made the dean's list. I mean, I did great. So I went into education, did the typical, I did the student teaching, and then I went in and substitute taught. And I was the
mhm.
drama guy after school in Northern Michigan. But in college, I belonged to an LGBT group. We just called it gay and lesbian group back in the day. Uh,
Mhm.
but I enjoyed that I could really inspire people, but I was scared as hell to talk about something that was so personal and
Mm,
taboo. And I had a
yes.
boyfriend in college, and we were the token gay couple that went to the college dorms and talked about us. And people were so fascinated. Oh, two men are together. Wow.
Wow. Yeah, because
So,
this would have been around what years
um,
that we're talking about?
James and I were together in 90. So, and I
Right.
graduated uh 91. So,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
And so I felt like there was a need there, and I didn't know where that was going to be in speaking, but I enjoyed it. So, did the whole high school thing, and then I went into higher. I worked at Interlochen actually for 2 years, Interlochen Center for the Arts, and I started
Mm,
the first Gay Straight Alliance under a lot of scrutiny because here I was a educational director of a hall,
hmm.
junior and senior high school boys out,
Mm,
and they were really afraid that parents were going to take their kids out of the
mm,
dorm situation because
gosh.
there's an out hall director, which never happened. So they had to put a female straight counterpart in there with the GSA for us to facilitate the meetings. And I gave a lot of kids hope. I mean, I've still heard it to this day, all these years later. And I just, again, felt there was a need in the community to speak out. So when I got my job in higher ed for 7 years, I worked as director of student life, and then I was the adjunct theater and acting professor.
Mm,
Um, I was working with a lot of agencies, booking events and acts on campus, and I got hooked up with an agency from Chicago
hmm.
called Bass Schuler. And uh, my friend who I met was great, was a hypnotist, Uh, Fred Winters, I know this gets really, it's going to be a big book. So Fred Winters, I would book, he was a hypnotist, and I found out that he was also gay, and he wanted to take this little makeshift flyer I made up for speaking. And he gave it
Mhm,
to the agency, and they were just starting a lecture series, and I was one of the first people on it. And they
mhm,
started getting me lecture gigs traveling now and then, and my college loved it. And then in 2002, I was offered, well, I'll go get back on it. 2001, they said, we'd like to represent you full time, but you need to be near a major airport to fly in and out.
wow.
And the meaning I would have to give up the great benefits and everything at the college. And it was in a resort town. I loved it. But what kind of life would it be for me as a gay man?
Mhm,
Also in having more of a community, uh, in my search for love, relationship. And so I told them I was leaving. They were wrecked at the school in 2002, the end of, so this is going on to, it was probably right around November 2002 that I was going to leave in the springtime, right after the year was over. So that'd be in May,
mhm,
June of
mhm.
2003. And I mean, they made a big deal about it, and they planned a tree on their campus in my honor. I thought it was wonderful.
Wow.
And I moved to Chicago, and scared me to death because now I was coming to Chicago. I was the small fish in the big pond,
Yes. Yeah.
and rough. And when you're working with people and trying to encourage people to be better human beings and teaching, this as an educator,
Mhm.
and they don't get paid enough.
Mm-mm.
When you're working with people, you seems to me like it's all backwards. You should be getting
Yes.
paid a lot. Then,
Yes.
you know, God loves sports and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's kind of, that kind of money should be spent over to the educational system.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so I wasn't making a lot of money. And I was scared, but then things picked up. And I started adding to my portfolio and traveling. And I was just a national speaker at that point. And then I left Bass Schuler right around COVID. And I just got back. So interesting. I spoke at the World Peace Conference.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, that was such an honor in Ontario, California, with some really wonderful people that were trying to make the world better. I met some really unique people. And I came back for that, and the talk was about this virus that was coming out of China, and they were really nervous. Well, then with a few months, I lost my entire tour
Yeah.
for that coming year, and I didn't know what to do. And
Oh
at
my
that point, I
gosh.
felt like it was my legacy
Mhm.
and always what I wanted to do. And I thought, well, I can either sit here and cry or look at a positive. And I put everything online. I've done a little filmmaking in the past. I was executive director of a film about the murder of Matthew Shepard, and then
Mm.
I was a director and editor of a film called 2:02 a.m. about the murders at the Pulse nightclub shooting, because I would want
Yes.
to talk about hate and everything. So I thought, well, those films I'm going to have to put on the internet, on the web, on Zoom or whatever. I rerouted everything, and it took a little while, a few months, for people to come around because they were so freaked out about COVID.
Mhm. Mhm.
Then companies and corporations were reaching out to me and globally. So the global tag came on, and I got added on to two global agencies that have been wonderful. And it's just snowballed from there. So now we're in a era where, the DEI and the LGBTQ plus is under attack. So
Yes.
I can tell you,
Wow.
it's been a struggle and a lot of
Yes.
work. I've changed a lot of my couple titles of my
Yes.
lectures and
Mhm.
programming, and calling it DEI. I'm calling it empathetic leadership. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to ask you all about that and how those changes are going. Just before we do that, so when you so do you still do a lot of online presentations, or are you all mostly in person now?
I do probably more online
Mhm.
because I think a lot of the companies and corporations are reaching out to other colleagues and affiliates
Yeah.
that are not in just one location. And
Mm-hmm.
also, if they're doing these big conferences,
Right.
they're doing it online, it's not costing as much. They don't
Yes.
need to pay for airfare or
Mm-hmm.
hotel or the facility to have these in. So I'm
Right.
still doing those. And I initially started off with colleges and universities.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still doing those, but the corporations and companies have been more prominent than ever. So I would say percentage wise, it's about 70% online and the rest
Mm-hmm.
I'm traveling. So I don't travel as much, but I
Right.
still do.
Mm-hmm. So you work with big companies and you also work with high schools, right? High school
A few
students?
high schools,
Yeah.
normally higher ed schools.
Mm-hmm.
High schools, I would love to get in more, and I hear parents, we want to get you in here. But again, you're dealing with um, sometimes very conservative people that you think I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to go in and, with my magic Harry Potter wand and make everybody gay. So
Yeah.
that's not what it's about, because I talk
No,
a lot
of course
about
not.
allyship and community and just being a good person and understanding, straight, cis white people are not the only ones in your community. There's other
Right.
people, and you love them because what they bring to the table.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about all this, the new the US, the administration, all the directives and everything. And so you're saying you've had to change the name of change some of the terminology. So, oh my, oh gosh, it's just even up here in in Canada, we're just so worried about it and it's so sad.
It really is.
Um, what are you most worried about in regards to this work, and how are you, I mean, your whole business, you must be a little bit worried about how that's going to go. So, yeah, what are your feelings about all of this?
Great question. Every time I meet up with friends or whatever, they'll say, "Wow, what's going on with your work? Are you okay? Are you doing well?" I can be very angry about it. I find myself more sad what's going on because
Mhm.
there's such confusion.
Mhm.
I am nervous, to be honest with you, my career, but I've spent months of new marketing, working out new details, different things like that. I just reached out to head of my agency, one of my agencies today to talk about it. Usually this is like a downtime for me. I get a few gigs, you know, February, March, and then April is a big month for uh, Pride celebrations at colleges and universities.
Right.
June is a big for companies, corporations to bring in
Mhm.
people. So I'm just working. Even my title was Greg R Baird Global Lecture on Civil Rights, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Belonging. And I've taken that out of my title
Mhm.
to make it more user friendly, I guess you would say. I'm still
Mhm.
talking about the same things, but
Right.
if I want to get booked,
Yeah.
uh, and I have friends that will say your message is needed more than ever, and I agree with that.
Mhm.
But try
Mhm.
telling that to
Mhm.
a company or corporation that's
Yeah.
gotten rid of their ERG group or the
Mhm.
DEI.
Yeah.
There's some companies I've spoke to that have gotten rid of it, uh,
Yeah.
and then some that have included it more. So it's on a
Mhm.
very shaky term right now, and I tell people to stay away from the news as much as you can.
Mhm.
I think a lot of us are sad. We're sad for our Canadian neighbors and how
Yeah.
things are going. My grandmother was a Canadian, born and raised. So you see these things happen time
Yeah.
after time, and it can either destroy your spirit
Yeah.
or you can be empowered. And that's
Mhm.
what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask you that very thing about how, if you talk to people about their news intake. Oh, there's so many things I want to ask you. Um, so when you do, going back to, this valuable work you do with staffs and companies, what are your main messages? And I guess also I'm thinking when I post this episode and talk about it online, because I'll be promoting it,
Right.
do you want me to now I'm worried about what I say. Like, should I like say you're an empathy
Not at
creator or
all. Not at all. You
okay.
can say whatever you want.
Okay, I
Yeah,
want to do
I'm,
what's best for you. And
yeah,
so I can see the real dilemma in that because some people are, like you said, are probably, well, I'm glad they are, thinking like, screw this. We're going all in on this and we're not taking this out of our companies. And you would be a real champion for that. But on the other hand,
right.
probably the ones who need to hear the message most are the ones who don't want to see those words in the in someone's title.
And you're
So,
correct about that. I spoke to in theaters with a lot of people there, and I've had several people in the Q&A session say, you have people that want to be here or
mhm.
are kind of questioning, different things, but
Yeah,
ones that really need to hear it are not here,
right.
you
Yeah,
know. And then
yeah,
I believe in as Judy Shepherd, Matthew Shepard's mother always says, um, you still need to preach to the choir because you got to keep the choir going.
that's right.
And
Yeah.
I believe that. So that, that on
Mhm.
one hand, what I'm doing, and the other, I'm trying to reach people. There's going to be people, Gail, that will never want to hear your message,
Yeah.
no matter how
Yeah.
much you try. And I think that's the frustration with a lot of folks with the
Mhm.
news and family
Mhm.
members and things like that. I
Yeah.
had that from my mother, my stepfather. So uh,
Yeah. Mm.
we got to go forward. And I don't believe this is going to be a permanent thing.
No.
I think things are going to unravel for what's
Yeah.
happening right now, and we need to stand tall. I think
Yeah.
the problem I'm having right now is I don't see a lot of people stepping up to the plate and saying this is wrong or really getting out there and doing that. I see
Mhm.
a few here and there, but
Yeah.
that's the frustrating part for me.
Mhm. 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 I can see that. well, it seems like there's just so much it's so risky, I guess people feel. It looks like there's so much power being wielded. I mean, this is kind of off topic, but when you mentioned about Canada, like to be called, yesterday, I think he said, or the day before, he said that we're so nasty. Canada is
Yeah,
a nasty, we're nasty people. I mean, it could not be farther from the truth.
I agree.
It's just ridiculous and so awful and mean and untrue.
And he
I
was
mean,
calling your
that's,
prime minister a governor.
oh,
He's
I know.
and it's
Oh,
just
yeah.
like one thing after. And
Yeah.
my best friend is a big CNN junkie, and I always say to him that he needs to lead in with a positive because it's all
Yes.
I always hear. Did you hear?
Yes.
You see? And
Yeah.
I had to like reel him in and go, do you know what you're doing to your positive energy in doing
Yes,
that?
exactly. And
You
that's what I
deserve to
talk
see
about
me
this.
off.
Yeah, I talk about this all the time because what people I think don't understand about that is not toxic positivity. It's saying that, having positive emotions and focusing on the positive at least some of the time actually helps us be stronger and more healthy. And
Absolutely.
then we can have the resilience and fortitude to stand up against some of the crap that's going on. And if we don't have anything positive, then it's just the downward spiral. So I really agree with you. And so what do you have advice for people about, I mean, maybe this is one of the messages that you talk to groups about, but about the news and consumption of it and how to handle it.
I get that question asked often. I tell people to be informed, but don't overdo it.
Mhm.
It's like drinking a glass of wine. The first one sounds pretty good, but if you go through two bottles, you know how awful you feel afterwards. So
That's
don't
right.
overindulge with the news.
Mhm.
There's times that, verbatim, the news comes on here, the national news. I watch ABC with David Muir, comes on at 5:30. I'll watch it, and when I've had enough, I turn it off. I
Mhm.
can't have it on all day long. If I'm
Mhm.
working, I usually have music, or even honestly, I'm a big connection with wind and water. I'm Aquarius, so I don't know if that plays a factor.
Yeah, I
But
bet.
on my speaker, I'll just have wind sounds
Mhm.
at times when I'm speaking just to keep my mind at peace. And a lot of things that I do for self-care is finding that peace uh, within myself. Excuse me. And I'll post positive quotes on Facebook. I post like some nice thoughts. different kinds of music. I do my LGBTQ facts and history Monday through Friday. So a lot of people will say, oh my gosh, this hit me today, or I really
Mhm.
love that. And thank you for being the inspiration for a lot of us that live in remote areas, or, when we're watching all this stuff. And again, they'll say, how can you be so positive? And
Mhm.
uh, what's the alternative?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, hopefully, some people listening are, we have some administrators and leaders of groups and all different types of people listening to the podcast. But what are some of the main messages that you try to convey when you're working with staffs and organizations? Because hopefully, people will want to have you even more
Yeah, right.
um, these days. So,
I approach my lectures on a storytelling, and again, I've been blessed with that. I could sit down with anybody and I have a story about something. And I really feel that storytelling changes hearts and minds. It also changes policies, and it also changes laws and
mm,
how we look at the world. And when people are anti non-binary or transgender, anti whatever, sit down with somebody, not with your phone, not with a computer, but sit down with somebody and have a conversation. And you will find that your differences are not so different. There's a lot
mhm,
of likeness, but then the differences that you may have or outlook should be celebrated.
mhm,
And that's one of the messages I start. So I start the whole program off, no matter what, with this awful picture from 1970 of my family portrait. Um, and the outfits are horrendous, and the outfit that I wore, I talk about the whole thing, and I talk about middle class white privilege and how hate and bigotry was taught to my brother and I give examples of that.
mm,
And
yeah.
then I go on to talk about what is your legacy, to the audience. What is your legacy? What do you
Mm,
want to be remembered for? And
mhm,
what kind of community do you want to live in? Do you want to be a community that's in turmoil and been turned upside down, or do you want a community that's healthy? Because when you're in a community of people that are accepted and are cared for, they're more productive. There's
mhm,
less hate going on. There's less bad energy and things of the sort. So I hit people hard, and then I go into allyship. I talk what signs of hate have been around in our communities and how they affect them when people come into your town and try to have some kind of signs or whatever it may be. How do you do that? Do you yell at them and scream from across the corner, or do you have your own peaceful protests? Well, you have the peaceful protests. So, and then I give people points what to do, what to share. And I share some personal stories and how people can reflect and people can identify with that. And then at the end of the lecture, I go through, because I just don't like to speak and leave. So I give people
mhm,
a lot of different websites and things for resources to reach out to. And I'll do my Q&A and any questions.
mm,
If I don't have an answer to a question, I I will ask them to get a hold of me and I'll get back with them. And the best thing is the Zoom and all those kind of programs are great, the Google calls and all that. But being in person is so much better because I enjoy talking one-on-one. I like the reception afterwards where I can actually
mhm.
meet and mingle with people. And I'll tell you the short story.
Yeah.
I was at Reading, Pennsylvania. It was Slippery
Mhm,
Rock University quite a while ago, and I had a huge audience there, and I was brought in through student activities, and I got done speaking, and there was a whole row of people up waiting to talk to me, and I had uh, a boyfriend girlfriend staying in line, and they had pamphlets that you used to get on your car windshield, like 10
yeah.
Steps to Heaven or How to Get Out of Hell and Find Ways or whatever.
Yeah.
And they went, here. They handed me one. I go, and they walked away from me. I go, wait a minute. And then I saw the director of student activities like really nervous, she goes, oh no. And I said, were you at my program? She said, yeah, we were. And I said, what did you think of it? And she goes, well, we feel very challenged.
Oh,
And I
good.
said, how is that? She goes, challenging our thinking. It made us nervous. And I said, well, my job is done then. And I said to the gentleman, the male student, I go, what did you take away from it? And he goes, well, I'm just confused like she is. She goes, I need to go back and have discussions with our leaders of our group, because you were talking about community and there's a lot of stuff that we don't believe in. And I said, well, I appreciate you hearing my message, but I got a question for you. And she said, what is that? And I said, do you believe, I said, do you believe in what you're doing with handing out in the word of God? And she goes, oh, absolutely. And I said,
Mhm,
if you believe in the word of God and what you're doing and you're handing these pamphlets off, why would you just hand me the pamphlet and walk away from it?
mhm.
And they had no words to
Wow.
say. And the young man said, I agree with you. And he goes, I apologize. We probably should have stayed and talked. I said, well, thanks for being here. I probably challenged you in a lot of ways, and I
Mm.
hope in good ways. And if you need to reach out to that, walked away. And the student activities director said, man, I don't know what you were doing and where you're going with that, but that was awesome. You know,
Oh, I
so
love
it's those
that.
teachable,
Yes.
educators, we have these teachable moments, and
Yeah.
you can either belittle or destroy somebody, and that's not
Yes.
what I'm about.
Exactly.
And I've had people that don't agree with me, but have left like, wow, that's something I
Hmm.
think about. So,
Yeah, that's
um,
powerful. And those stories that you told, those, you're being vulnerable and that's your real life and would make such an impact. And it reminds me your approach with that kindness and respect, even that you're showing that couple, um, reminds me of, what MLK always said about people that are for peace need to organize as effectively as those who believe in war or want war,
right,
right? And I think that
right.
is so true. And you're doing that. So that's really powerful. And you said that you think storytelling can even change policies.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, can you talk a bit more about that?
I think when people stand up in front of, the Senate or even at their company or school district meetings,
Mm-hmm.
they really can create change. And the thing is, it's our allies, it's our straight allies that are there standing side by side with us. They're
Yes.
releasing their power and their privilege. So, they're invited to the table with us, but with the understanding that you need to be with us, and you can do it in your own way. But
Mm-hmm.
those policies, those laws can be changed. I think people feel like, oh, we can't do anything. It's already in the books. No, um, you're going to see an unwinding of things, and we need to remain strong and not put our tail in between our legs and walk.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's where
So
the things change.
I wanted to ask specifically about allies. What do you think? Do you have a couple of suggestions, specific things that you think allies can do?
Allies need to come out, have more conversations with people that are they think are unlike them, or maybe
Hmm.
they're uncomfortable talking. I've had friends say, I don't understand the whole drag queen thing. Well, first off, drag queen is for entertainment purposes. So that's a number one
Yeah.
football. It's not so. If you want to talk about transgender or non-binary, I have people even within my own community, the gay community. I don't get it. Maybe we should take the
Mm.
T out of LGBT. You know,
Wow.
oh yeah, not everybody
Really?
thinks that, but some some
Hmm.
think that, and you need to understand those kind of conversations. I am blessed. I grew up in a bigoted household, and I am so blessed to have gotten to know more of the Latino community and the people of color, and working with disabled children. And
Hmm.
I had a fondness of working with people that with Down syndrome. So um, we need to understand different aspects of our community. Not everybody is to look like us or be like us, and that's the beauty of what they're bringing to the table. Uh,
Hmm.
we're all human. We're all goodness. And the allies, you give up some privilege or power that you have to be there. Not everybody is an ally is going to be in a pride parade. But you know what?
Mm-hmm.
I want to be the cheering squad on the sidelines. So if I'm on a float and you're an
Yeah.
ally, I see you. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you a great example. I have a chosen family in northern Michigan I spend the holidays with. I love them. I've known them for years. They're younger couple. They're in their 30s, but they have two teenagers, one male, one female. And the
Mm-hmm.
teenager, the boy, is 14. And you would think, well, he's all caught up with, he is with girls, and they're on their phones constantly, and they have to put the phones away all the time and things.
Yeah.
He did this really wonderful thing. His name is Jace. And I was up there, I saw him at Christmas time, but it was a year ago, this May. I was up north and we were hanging out, and he came back with this snowboard that had a rainbow, like uh, the colors of the gay pride flag.
Yeah.
And he goes, Greg, I saw this on the side of the road. And he goes, I wondered if you want, I want to give this to you. And I thought, how cool.
Yeah.
14-year-old boy saw this and thought of me. So I go, Jace, I'm going to take this and I'm going to fix the whole thing up. And there was like bootstraps and stuff and holes. So we took that off and I brought it home. And it was my arts and crafts project for about 3 weeks or a month. But it's hanging on my wall now. And it's the colors of the progress flag. And I sent
Mm-hmm.
him the picture, and he was over the moon that
Oh,
he had done something like that. And I'm the gunkle, and
yeah.
he's got a gay uncle as well, and his uncle's husband. So he's around that. But just the fact that here's a young, this is how you teach people to be an ally and
Mm-hmm.
how much that means to them. And
Mm-hmm.
they're allies of mine, and having somebody stand side by side with you, even if you're changing your screen wallpaper, the optical allyship on your
Right.
PC, or you got a little pride flag, which I got in my cups here with my
Yeah.
pen, just different things that you do, and support, and how whatever your comfort level is, but you need to challenge your comfort level at some point also.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I know this is a slightly different
Sure.
point, but even like pronouns, having, people taking, saying, I've had straight friends say, well, I don't need to put my pronouns on like my Zoom thing because I'm straight. And I'm saying, but you doing that is going to give people permission to also do that and to say that we need to put our pronouns out because who knows what someone wants to be identified as.
Right.
So,
And I also talk, that's a great example because, coming here, we've never met face to face. So I know. And so it's a privilege that you
yeah,
have your pronoun. I do as well. Some people don't get it. But the thing is, it's like when you have hate in a community, or I always tell like allies, you need to be an ally 100% of the time. So a derogatory joke
yeah,
or something, and if people laugh at it, no, you're not being an ally if you're laughing at that or you're
right.
supporting that kind of behavior. You need
Yeah.
to be with us 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if you don't understand the pronoun use, we didn't have that growing up. So
Mm-hmm.
the pronouns, when they came up, like, what is going on now with this?
Yeah.
Not a new thing. We have 72 different kinds of genders. And I know some people don't get the pronouns. I even had a cocktail group that one gentleman is in charge of 300 employees. He goes, I have too much time to ask my fellow employees to put their pronouns up. I don't have time. I don't get it. And that's the problem. You need to understand and go through the education of why that's important, because people
Mm-hmm.
need to feel like an individual. They need to feel respected.
Mm-hmm.
And those pronouns can change as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, what about, I wanted to ask about this demeanor that you have, it's kind of like a kindness gene, I always say.
Right, right,
So I guess you already touched on this a little. You said that your family wasn't very loving, I think was the word you
correct.
used. And did you have, is that how you think you kind of made a decision maybe to be very different from that? Or was there another mentor in your life? Or what was there a catalyst, I guess, for this kind of approach to life because not everybody has it.
Yeah, that is true, and thank you. My parents gave us good moral values up until, the off-color jokes and bigotry kind of thing, but there was some good
Mm,
morals and values. And when I caught my mom at a really good time, when she was happy, and she had a lot of ghosts in her attic, a lot of demons. She came from a large family, and all of her brothers, I think, except for one, were alcoholics, along with their father. So that kind of thing can be really disruptive. And as a child, her son growing up, and I'm adopted, so is my brother, we didn't, we just thought that's the way things were. So, and I remember when I stayed with her after I got done with student teaching, and I was leaving to go up north to northern Michigan, she hugged me very tensely and shaking. She goes, Greggy, I don't know where you got to love people so much, but you
mm.
sure didn't get it from this family.
Oh,
Yeah, and she goes, I want you to know I love you. I just don't know how to show it. And I thought, wow,
wow.
I'm so free about that. And I think
Yeah.
maybe because I didn't get it as a child,
Mm,
I had a lot of love. Let me tell you, from those children that I worked with at the muscular
mhm,
dystrophy camp. They didn't complain hardly at all. I was friends with Elliot Vanovitz. Gosh, I haven't talked about him in years. He was the poster child for muscular dystrophy.
mm,
And I was friends with him even when I went to junior college. He lived in the same town. And
mhm,
not once did these people complain. And I think all of them, except for maybe a handful, are still alive. And I just thought, what am I complaining about? What am I, and if you're spreading joy and peace and comfort in the world, it's only more beautiful and wonderful. I will You mentioned briefly about a turning point, and I will share this with you. It's a
mhm.
try to shorten up the story as best I
Yeah,
can.
please.
This to me was like a pivotal point in my career, but I met Judy Shepard, Matthew Shepard's mother, and I was really affected by that
Mm,
murder of Matthew being killed on a fence in Laramie, Wyoming. And this is 1998.
yes.
And I met her in 2000. I'm looking at because I have her poster up on the wall. 2000. And she came to speak at my college. I was director of the lecture series, and I became friends with her after that. And that same year, I spoke at Central Michigan University, where I had gone to school. And a lot of people remember me still. And they moved my lecture to a different auditorium because so many people showed up. I mean, that's wonderful to begin with.
That's beautiful. Mhm,
Yeah. So a year later, this is after I met her now, she was invited to Central Michigan University, and she contacted me and said, Greg, I'm going to be at your alma mater. Would you like to come down and introduce me? Because Dennis, her husband, was not going to be there. And the PFLAG, Parents,
mhm.
Friends, Lesbians, and Gays, was throwing a free reception for her. And she goes, I want you to be my plus one. I'm like, absolutely. So I got down. She goes, well, I want you to introduce me. And excuse me, mind you, this is about 3 years after Matt was killed on the fence. And so had the reception. It was wonderful. And my friend Tim went with me, who was in my theater group when I went to college. He still lived in that town. And so he was up in the balcony waiting for me. And I got on stage. We're in Warner Auditorium, 2,000 seats packed.
Wow.
And I introduced her, was totally honored. And I go all the way around the back of the theater, go upstairs, and I sat with Tim, and there was a group of students in front of me from a residence hall. And they said, Greg, could you take us down stairs after the lecture? We have this big banner. I don't know if you remember the banner paper we used to have in college. Like,
Yes, I do.
remember that? I don't know
Yeah.
if they still do that or not, but they wrote all these notes on it and stuff. That was great back in the day, all
Yeah.
the paper. Well, they had made this beautiful, probably 12-foot, 15-foot banner for
Mm,
her. And there was a whole group of them from this residence hall. I said, yeah, I'll take you down afterwards. So, the program ended, usually ends with a video. She was very choked up still, at that point, it was only a few years after Matt.
mm,
And the whole audience was moved. I've heard the story
mm,
several times at that point, and just love how she inspired people to be
mm.
better. and erase hate. So we're going
Mm.
downstairs. I have these people with the banner paper, and we're going against the wave of people leaving. And I'm down the center of the theater, and there's this red-haired, 20-some-year-old college student, female, going, Greg, Greg. And your listeners, they're not watching. I'm raising my hand. She's waving at me. And my friend Tim goes, do you know who that is? And I said, I don't know. And she goes, Greg. I'm like, hello, waving hi over people. And I was pointing, meet me out front, in front of the chairs, the auditorium.
Yeah.
So we get up front and I hand off and introduce the banner paper people and the students to Judy. And then she comes around, this red-haired student, female, and she goes, oh my God, I can't believe it's you. And mind you, I'm in a kind of a haze at this point because I was offered to leave my college to go do the work that I'm doing now full time. So I was on the
Mm-hmm.
fence about it.
Mm-hmm.
So this plays a factor. And the girl goes, oh, I can't believe it's you. And I said, do I know you? And she goes, well, you spoke here a year ago, didn't you? I said, yes, I did. She goes, I knew that was you. Because I was at your lecture. I go, well, thank you for showing up. It's so nice for you to run up here and, against the crowd here and say hello. She goes, well, I'm not finished yet. I go, oh, I'm sorry. And she goes, I wasn't going to come to your lecture at all. And she goes, when I was leaving the dorm, there was a flyer on the door going out on the exit door. And I saw the poster. And she goes, I thought, well, I might as well come. And I came, she said, and I loved it. And it really changed a lot for me. I
Mm-hmm.
said, well, that is so kind of you. Thank you. And again, she goes, I'm not finished yet. And Tim was like, let her talk. I'm like, well, I'm trying here. And then what she told me literally rocked my world. She said, what I didn't tell you is when I was leaving the dorm, I was with my backpack and I left 2 maps to my roommates on where they were to find my body because I was going to go kill myself.
Oh my God.
And I saw the flyer on the door. She goes, I thought, what do I have to lose? I was dating an older female student that was emotionally and mentally abusing me. I wasn't out to my family. I wasn't doing the best on my grades in school, and I had it. And she goes, I saw the flyer and I came. And she goes, I don't know if you remember. She goes, I know you see a lot of people, but my backpack was packed with all my stuff. And she goes, I sat there by myself. I listened to you. And mind you, at the time, Gail, I was talking a lot about like coming out issues and being just, based good human being. The
Yeah.
topic kind of changes per year and things like that, whatever the trend is.
Mm-hmm.
But she said to me, I know you said to wait till we came out, that we had a good backing and a support system, just in case as a college student, I may lose my funding for school, coming out to my family, different things. But she goes, I didn't listen to you. I went home because my family lives about 20 minutes away. And she goes, you know what? They love me just the same. And that student that I was in a relationship with, I got rid of her. And she said, I graduate in 2 months and I'm doing very well in my grades. And I
Oh.
always said, if I ever saw you again, I
Oh.
want to thank you for saving my life.
Oh my God.
And my friend Tim was a puddle on the floor.
Oh.
He hugged me. She hugged me. She did a little boop, boop step kind of thing. Off she ran, never saw her again. And my friend Tim said, if that doesn't tell you what
Yeah.
you could be doing the rest of your life, you are a
Yeah.
complete idiot. He used other choice words, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my
And
God.
that was like, that's what I'm doing.
That's the moment.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Thanks for
Isn't that a
sharing
great
that.
story? You were,
Oh, that is beautiful. So, what are you hoping for next in your business? I mean, is there something, that you hope to attain, or what do you hope happens in the next year or two for you?
I want to obviously do more podcasts, but my big thing I want to complete, because I procrastinated on it for a long time, and my agencies have asked, people have asked that care about me, is I need to finish my memoir, my book.
Yeah.
A book based on stories from my life. So each chapter will start from childhood on up.
Yeah.
Since I'm a storyteller, I thought it'd be perfect. So each chapter,
Yes.
which the story I just told will be in there.
Yeah.
along with the other things that people can learn and stuff. So I
Right.
really need to finish that. So that's on the docket.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I want to find, I haven't done any kind of documentary film in a while
Mm-hmm.
since the Pulse nightclub film I did.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
I need to be inspired by something.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking to do that again. And I do vlogging and my own little posts on
Yeah.
Instagram and
Right.
YouTube and all over. So TikTok. So I'll do more of those. But yeah, and keep transforming what I do because I really feel what I'm doing is my legacy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not giving up. I think a lot of people probably at this point would say, "Oh, I'm just done," and
Yeah.
I can't throw the towel in because one, I rely a lot on myself, and it's done the world for me. It's changed my life,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
also when you change the lives of others, you're also changing your own.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you're not giving up.
Thank you.
So important, especially now. That's for sure. So let's move to the quote now. I always give my guests a quote to comment on. I just think it's interesting to hear people's takes on things. And it also shares some great quotes that are out there. So this one I picked for you. I picked a Bell Hooks quote, and I'll read it and you can comment on it in any way you like. Of course, you can, if it reminds you of a story or if you agree, disagree, parts of it resonate for you. So the quote is this: Everywhere we learn that love is important, and yet we are bombarded by its failure. This bleak picture in no way alters the nature of our longing. We still hope that love will prevail. We still believe in love's promise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think any of us can lose hope on love and friendship and that longing. I I've had that, I'm here I am at 64, still single. So, I've dated. So it's that kind of longing. There's promise,
Yeah.
down the road. And then, loving what you do, that longing for what you do and who you are and the people in your tribe, so to speak, and
Mhm.
um, your allies that are with you, your co-collaborators, kind of thing.
Mhm.
So you still have that longing and wanting that love, even though you're bombarded by whatever's going on in the world. You see these
Yeah.
awful things, and I think the end of that would be just not to do anything.
Mhm.
Just to give up and throw our arms. And I have met people that are like that. Like, I'm done. I've been
Mhm.
burned several times, or the world's falling apart or going to hell or whatever you want to call it. But
Yeah.
you got to keep going. You got to have faith in the human being and the
Mhm.
kindness of people. 'Cause it's still
Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it is there. We aren't shown it very often though, are we? Like you said, I think you mentioned that at some point that when you talk to your friend about opening with something positive,
there.
like on the news, I mean, the little positive things come at the very end for a few seconds that we see something good,
They'll
but
say
then
all the disaster, and then at the end they're like,
yeah.
"Oh, we're going to show you this heartwarming story of a
Yeah.
dog
That's
that found its way home after being gone 100 miles." And you're
that's
like,
right.
"Oh, that feels good." But what about the other side?
That's
Yeah.
right.
And we tend to focus on, even like on your day, you could have a
Yeah.
great day, and then
Yeah.
somebody can come up and be a jerk to
Yeah.
you. And what do you remember?
I know.
Uh,
So we have to work, I think there's research on, positive and negative, and I think you need three positive experiences to outbalance the negative one. So that's why I'm doing this podcast, really, because I got so sick of only having being shown the negative. And
right.
in my work in community and education, there's so much beauty that I got to see all the time. And when I'd share it with
Yeah.
people, they'd say, "Oh, I had no idea about that." And I said,
Uh-huh.
"Yes, it happens all the time. We just don't get to see it." So you are doing a lot of beautiful work like that, Greg. And
Thank
I just think I want to thank you personally for that, for using your life like this.
thank you.
And yeah, so I've got two questions I always ask at the end, but anything else you want to say that I didn't ask you? And also, how can people support you in your work?
Okay. One thing I want to mention is I do this during the day. Sorry, I got a little Chicago cold here.
Okay.
Um, I do a gratitude. I guess I saw, of all things, Oprah do this.
Mm-hmm.
She closes her day out or the beginning of her day with things that you're grateful for. And I do
Mm-hmm.
that usually in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at my day and I do like 3 to 5 things that I'm grateful for. And it brings some peace in your world when
Mm-hmm.
you're having some solitude. Get off the cell phones, and get off, you can look at the cooking video tomorrow. Uh, and just have a peaceful time with you, with yourself, where what are the things that you're grateful for that happened during the day? And I do that every single day, and that helps out a lot. Um,
Okay.
how people can support me. If you're looking, and shameless plug, I would love to come and speak where you're at and
Mm-hmm.
meet with your audiences, meet with your colleagues. You can go to
Mm-hmm.
gregrbaird.com.
Mm-hmm.
You can also find me on letsengage.com. It's one of my agencies, or Speakers Inc. INC. And then I'm on a kind of, I don't know how you say it, it's called Speaker Hub, where
Mm-hmm.
a variety of people, they're not really an agency, but just a support thing. And I'm also on TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky. I mean, it's like another job. Blue Sky
Yeah, it is.
and Facebook, if you look up Greg R Baird or Gregor Speaks. And I do vlogs, anywhere 3 to 10 minutes on my journeys or just daily messages and things, usually Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Okay. And
Yeah.
the website is, do you have you said a
Yeah.
website?
Website is gregrbaird.com.
Okay. Right. Okay, I'll put that
And
all.
everything's on there. There's links on there and
Yeah.
quotes, and you can see on YouTube. You can see
Mm-hmm.
a lot of. I go to storytelling events that I've been at. I've been at, just regular speeches and things
Yeah.
like that. And it also shows you my in-home office. When I'm doing things virtually.
Okay, great. Yeah, because a lot of people are from Canada that listen, but there's people from all around the world that listen. So, you doing Zoom, you can do something virtual, and they can still have you join them.
I
So
can
that's
accommodate too if they have certain needs or things they want to talk about.
yeah.
I've done in the past, like I had a company wanting to talk just about pronoun use, and then I had one
Mm-hmm.
talk just about allyship, and I've done all of that, and I
Perfect.
incorporate it still with personal stories and things. So I think
Yeah.
people really feel engaged, and it's not stuffy or anything of the sort.
Okay. Sounds great. All right. So we're going to get to the last two questions here. It's
Okay,
been really a pleasure talking to you. Just loved
thank
it.
you. You too.
Okay. So, um, with the understanding that what we shine light on grows, what we focus on grows. If we imagine a world in which we were to all focus more on fostering love, such as in the ways we focused on here today, what do you think we might see?
You would see a community that's respected. You would feel a community that's engaged with one another and not dissecting everything about. I think we see so much people dissecting everybody till there's nothing left. Uh,
Mhm.
and where that comes from, I don't know, but a more loving world, caring about one another. How's your neighbor? When you come home from work, you just close the front door, or as a curious, kind neighbor, do you stick your head out the door and you look to
Mhm.
your left, how that neighbor's doing? You look to the right, how's that neighbor doing? And you look across the street and see how that neighbor's doing. And
Mm.
if they're doing well and you're putting that good energy and you're checking in with each other, then you can go inside and close that door.
Mm. That's beautiful. What a
Thank you.
simple and powerful thing to do. That's really great. And the last question is just what are one or two thoughts that you hope listeners take away from our conversation today?
That you have hope when things feel in despair, uh, and it's the whole country. We're looking at wars and what could be or couldn't be, but you have to step away and be kind to one another, engage with people that are different, and understanding one another. For the United States, we're such a politically divided country, and we need to come together more, and be well. We need a wellness check. And I
Mhm.
want people to be more well and aware and proactive. Not everything can be done online. Not everything can be done in holding your cell phone.
Mhm.
Put it down, engage with people, have people over, be an ally, step out front and lead by example. If you're
Mm.
a parent, lead by example. You know what kind of world you want your children to live in,
Yeah.
and lead that. Invite people to the table, invite all people to the table that are different. You know, if you're uh, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, whatever it may be, a
Yeah.
picnic, invite other people and have those conversations and let people walk away that feeling that they're better off having known you.
Mm.
Wonder, and what are you doing that people leave you feeling that they're better off? I bet
Yeah.
a lot of your listeners can say, "Oh, I need to work on that." And I
Mm.
try to do that. There's times that I run into people on the street. I've never spoken about this, but there is a grocery bagger. They call him Dash. Dash is 50 years old. He's at the local grocery store around from me. Always tells me his schedule. And I bring him to my table hypothetically when I
Yeah.
see him.
Yeah.
He was in a severe auto accident when he was in college. He has a master's degree. And he's a bagger, always hugs me when he
Mm.
sees me. And he goes,
Mhm.
"God bless you, Greg." He
Mhm.
goes, I love our friendship. Every time I see him, he's just a gem. And his parents are allies. They're all straight, but he's an
Yeah.
ally. He sees me, and it brings me such joy in my day. If I've had, we all have rough days. And if I go in there and he's working, I get a smile on my face because I know I'm
Yeah.
getting a hug from him. So we're talking about a world, it's people like that are miracles. He's had
Mhm.
this awful thing happen to him, but a lot of us that have had tragedy or things happen to us, don't let that defeat you. Be a better
Mhm.
person. And I'm a clear example of that. And it's
Mhm.
always a work in progress. But Dash is pretty wonderful. And I see him probably twice a week. And then he says, "I just want to let you know I'm working Friday from 5 until 10." I'm like, "Okay, thanks a lot, Dash." Uh,
Oh,
so it's just,
yeah.
listen to your world around you and listen to the people that are reaching out. And we always seem to be not having a lot of time for each other because we're so
Mhm.
consumed with work and everything else. But have time for people. Let
Mhm.
people walk away from you feeling like a better human being.
Mm. Love it. That is so great. Thank
Thank
you so much, Greg. Really enjoyed
you.
talking to you.
Same here. Thank you. Really great conversation.
Thank you.